So this week, we're doing a little challenge. Joe set the camera up and he went away, and I made a standard American cookie and a whole food plant-based, both chocolate chip cookies. And he's going to do a taste test and give you his honest opinion about both. Stay tuned. Hi, welcome back to One Dish, Two Ways. So today's video is going to be slightly different in the fact that Joe got me started on how to start the cameras, and then he went away to do things with the dogs, do things outside, because I had this idea. So let's start off. I'm Sheila, my husband's name is Joe, and I eat whole food plant-based, or as much as I can, and he eats more standard American diet, a little on the keto side, but I did that to cure my migraines, which it has worked. So we created a channel because we know many people eat differently in their household, and we want to show you that it's really not as hard because we learned how to do it, and we wanted to share that. So Valentine's Day is like 10 days away. Of course, when I think of Valentine's Day, unfortunately, I do think of chocolate. So I had this idea, and I pitched it to Joe, and he said yes. So I'm going to make a whole food plant-based cookie and a chocolate chip cookie, and I'm going to make a standard, chocolate chip cookie. And he's not going to know anything, and he's going to come up here and taste them for you guys and try to, he'll probably know which one's which, but I want his honest opinion, because if you've seen anything in our channels, and even the desserts I brought in here, Joe tends to like the whole food plant-based desserts, and I think it's because in general they're not as sugary, and I was always the sugar addict, and still to this day I have to fight that urge all the time. So these cookies are made with a very surprise ingredient, which we'll get to. So it will be a little bit different because I don't have anybody to zoom in, but hopefully the overshot will show. So I'm going to start with making the batter for my cookies, and then I'll come back and I'll do the batter for his, and then we'll bake both. So for my cookies, we're going to start with, so I'll kind of explain to, in case you're ever curious about vegan baking, obviously we don't use eggs, so how do you replace the egg? So in general, we use a flax egg. And all that is, here it is. You just take flax meal. It's usually 3 to 1. So 1 tablespoon of the flax meal to 3 tablespoons of water. And then you just put that together. I put it together as I was gathering all the other ingredients up. And it's going to, so I can get it right here. It becomes more solidified, and that's going to be what's going to help you for your egg part of the recipe. And then you're still going to need a little bit of sugar. In this case, the sugar is going to be replaced with this coconut sugar. And then we're still going to need some sort of creaminess, and that is the secret ingredient, and I'll get to it. Now, this is not my original recipe. This is from Plant Pure Nation. So in the box with all the details, I'll have the link so you can go straight to their website. So first we got to get our flour together, and we're going to use oat flour. So here's my tip. Don't go buy oat flour. It's so easy. Even this recipe tells you to do it. You can just eat whatever you need. So in this case, I need 1.5 cups of oat flour. I just took 1.5 cups of old-fashioned oats, and I'm just going to take them over to my Ninja blender and blend them up to make the flour. So before I do that, because I want to just go once over to the blender and get away from you and then come back, because our blender, the Ninja, is very, very loud. I'm going to put the other ingredients in here to start. So we need a 3/4 teaspoon of baking powder. So I've got my measure here. We need 3/4 teaspoon of baking soda and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. That's in here because I have a very large baking soda bag, and so that was just easier to go ahead and get it over here. It also needs a 1/2 cup of this PB2. It's powdered peanut butter. Basically, it's defatted a bunch of the peanut butter out, and so it's easy to use in recipes like this, and it keeps the fat level low, which I need to do in order to get this excess weight off now that I've cured my migraine. So I just need a 1/2 cup of this. So this is going to be our dry ingredients, and then of course any good chocolate chip needs chocolate chips, and yes, they do make them that are dairy-free. This actual brand actually has 10 different allergens. So if you have someone that has 14 different allergy-free, wheat, peanuts, pine nuts, dairy, egg, They're good, and I've actually found these at Walmart. So yeah, they're a little more expensive than the other ones, but it gives me a chance to have something a little bit chocolatey. So you need 1 cup of those, okay? So, and then the oat flour will go in there. So I will go to the blender as soon as I show you the other stuff. So we also need to make our, you know, anytime you're baking, you need to cream some sort of mixture together, and usually it's butter and your sugar and your vanilla and your egg, and you cream all those things together. So what's that replacement going to be today? And in this recipe from Plant Pure Nation, they used garbanzo beans. Yes, people, chickpeas is not just for hummus. So I actually thought I had a can of chickpeas in the cupboard. I did not. So I had some dry ones, and so I put them in the Instant Pot and made them this morning. And my tip on that, if you ever have to make beans, or rice or whatever it is, make extra. You can freeze it, put it in pouches, and make it easy for you. So this is equivalent to 1 can of drained and rinsed chickpeas. Put that in my other Ninja. I have 3/4 cup of my plant-based milk. In my case, I used unsweetened almond that was vanilla flavored, and my vanilla extract is also in here. Okay. And then in this case, it's using the 3/4 cup of the coconut sugar. So I'm putting that in. And I'm also going to take this over to the Ninja. So I'll do the flour first, do this, and then when I come back, we'll put all that together. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. And I have to tell you, I wanted to try it. I have not made these cookies before. I told you guys I'm not scared to come on here and do a video, because this is real life. We all cook in our kitchens, and sometimes it doesn't go as planned. But for a recipe that the Kim Campbell did for Plant Pure Nation, I'm pretty sure unless I screwed up, it's going to be good. So I was curious. After I blended the chickpea mixture, I was curious and I wanted to try it. Looks caramely, and it tastes caramely. It does not taste like chickpeas. Now, to forward, if this is the first time you've been to a video and you're going to be like, there's no way your husband's going to eat that if he thinks there's chickpeas in it. One of his favorite recipes I made last year was the black bean chocolate pudding. So he's not going to be afraid to try anything. And I'll tell him if he wants to know what's in it, but sometimes he just likes to taste it instead of knowing all the details. So let's start with the flour. So you took that flour and I turned it in. I pulsed it. I have a Ninja. It's an old Ninja. It's not anything fancy. And I think I pulsed it on medium twice, so it was 20 seconds. So there's our flour. We also need to add in our flax egg. So I'm just going to stir this. I've noticed that when I've done the flax egg, if you don't stir it, then you might not get everything out, because that stuff will settle at the bottom. And then last but not least is our cream mixture. And then we're just going to mix everything up. Wow, these are going to be really good if this stuff tastes caramely, if it tastes like that once it's cooked, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But this is, So let's stir this all up. You wouldn't think you would need a mixer. I think just stirring it by hand will be more than enough. I will use a mixer for Joe's, just so I don't have to stand there and cream all that butter. So, wow, I can smell a little bit of that peanut butter too. And we like all things peanut butter. You can use, she does have a hint at the bottom that if you can't find the powdered peanut butter, she probably made that recipe back before that was really as much of a thing as it is now. So I've never been able to not find it. What I can't find is the cashew, because they do that for cashews, and I've always thought that would be phenomenal, because then it would defat the cashews. Okay, so I've got a silicone-lined pan, and for this recipe, it calls for it to be on 375. I know, slightly different than usually cookies are 350. So I'm just going to put these on here. I think I've used the scoop that's like the 2 tablespoon scoop. And then Joe can speed up during this part. And then they're going to cook in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes. I'll let them cool for a little bit, and then, but I won't sit here and make you watch me put these cookies on a tray. So I'm going to come back and we'll start the recipe for Joe's cookies. Okay, we're back. Now it's time to make Joe's cookies. So this is a pretty standard recipe, I just cut the recipe in half basically, just so we didn't have so many cookies. We are both trying very hard to really hone in our sweet eating. And the nice thing about cookies is they're easy to freeze. So that is going to be phenomenal for us to have for a treat down the road. So just like with the other, any cookies that you make or any baked goods, you normally have your dry ingredients and then your ingredients, your wet ingredients, you cream together and then you put them together. So in here, I've already got the salt and the 1 cup and 1/8 cup of flour. We need to add our baking powder. It's a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. And then that's all of our, your dry ingredients that I need to do ahead of time. Now it's just time to cream everything together. So I've got in here the 1/2 cup of butter. You can use margarine, and it's just one of the sticks. We're gonna put this is maple brown sugar. And so because I'm using maple brown sugar instead of standard brown sugar, I'm gonna opt to not put the vanilla extract in because I'm worried that it's gonna be too much. So just keep that in mind. If you're just using standard brown sugar, I would still use the vanilla extract. But that's just a decision I'm making on the fly here because of what I'm making. And then we've got our egg. And so now we just need to cream these items together. So I'm going to use my stand mixer for this. Whoa! Apparently I did not have that in very well, did I? And we're just going to let that cream. I'm not sure if you'll be able to hear me over this. It's definitely not as loud as the Ninja. But same thing, I almost thought about doing the same chips for both cookies. But to be realistic on what you would use if you were making the standard cookie, I wanted to stick with that. But I also got the mini chips, so the mini chips is what I used in the other one. On those Enjoy Life, at least at my store, you either have to get the dark chocolate, regular size chips, or mini of the semi-sweet. So I got the mini ones, and so that's why I got the mini of the semi-sweet for these chips also. And it's the same thing, it's 1 cup of them. Actually, the minis are nice, because then you get a little, I think, more chocolate in every little bite, which is awesome. So we also need to add our sugar here, and we need 6 tablespoons of granulated sugar. So I've got that here. So I'm going to add that in as it mixes. So 1, I always have to count out loud so I don't lose my place. 2, 3. What things do you have to do in the kitchen so that you don't lose your place? Tell me in the comments. I would love to know. Because I am always game to learn more tips and tricks for the kitchen, that's for sure. Okay. I do always recommend that you keep some sort of spatula. That way you can push everything down, because you want to make sure that you don't have a lot of your stuff on the outside. And when I stop this to add the flour, I want to make sure I scrape those sides down. Okay, so let's lift this up. Let's scrape down the sides. And then you're going to add your flour mixture a little bit at a time. And I don't know about you, but multiple times I've had that stuff flying because I get it in there and, you know, all the things because I'm not paying attention to the mixer. So I'm going to try not to do that on camera, even though it does happen. Okay, so let's start adding a little bit at a time. There we go. It does help that the batter is smaller, and that way it's not so far up. You know, you make triple batches of stuff. Sometimes you've got too much in there, and then that's when everything starts flying. So just a little bit, 1/2 cup at a time, just to give it time to gradually mix in there. Baking goods are just not as forgiving as regular cooking. You know, I tell you all the time, use what you have, but in baking, you got to be a lot more precise with the measurements, otherwise it doesn't really come out at all. And you can change your chips up and things like that, your baking chips, but that would be about the only thing you want to do. Got a little bit more left in there. Okay. So that is looking phenomenal. Okay, so now that it's all incorporated, I'm just going to do the little scrape real quick. Luckily the batter is pretty thick, so you don't have to worry about it like dripping off and going everywhere. And now you want to mix in your chocolate chips. You could do this by hand. I always just go ahead and do it in the mixer. So I'm going to add those in, and it won't take but about 20 seconds, if that, to mix those in. Look at that. The chips are just everywhere. I love it. And like that, it's done. So you do need to clean off your blade. Otherwise, you won't have any cookies left in there. Any batter, I should say. This is also, cookies are always a great thing to do with little ones. Get them involved. They can dump the ingredients in if they're a little bit older. Then having them do the measurements, use those math skills, like how much is a half of this, and what if you double this? Those are always good things. I enjoyed math as a kid, so I liked things like that. Not everybody give me that over writing an essay, that's for sure. Okay, so we're good to go there. Now I'm going to use the same exact scoop on these cookies. This is a baking sheet that Joe just loves. One of his favorite YouTubers uses it, and so that's what I'm going to use. So they'll be the same size cookies, just like that. Now I did end up using 1.5 trays on the other cookies for mine, and these are going to bake for 350 for the same amount of time, 10 or 12 to 15 minutes. You just want to watch them. I mean, if you like crispy cookies, you could go a little bit longer than that. Another tip with cookies is let them cool for a little bit on the cookie sheet you're using, but just a little bit. If you try to move them immediately, that's when they start to break. But if you let them cool for 2 to 5 minutes, probably closer to 5, then put them on a cooling rack, then you won't have that breakage, which sometimes happens if you try to move them. We've all been there. You're in a hurry. You're trying to get stuff done. But that's just a tip. So both batches should make about 18 cookies. I guess it just depends on how big your scoop is. This one doesn't look like it'll be quite as many, but I'm not going to crowd them. That way I don't have to worry about them touching or anything. So, and that's another tip that I have run into when I was early baking at home, is that when you, so like this pan is cool, you know, it's room temperature right now. When you put it in, when you take it out to add the next round of cookies, your cookie sheet is already hot. So your time will need to be adjusted accordingly. Otherwise, that batch of cookies might come out crispier because your pan is so hot. So just keep that in mind and make sure you're watching them. So we'll be back after the cookies are out and cooled and Joe is ready to try them. See you in a bit. Okay, welcome back. Cookies are been baked, cooled, and here we are. And now it's time for Joe to come in and talk about cookies. So come on in.
What am I doing?
Well, see, I haven't prompted him what we're going to talk about. So clearly, I'm sure you can see which one's a standard cookie and which one is whole food plant-based.
Okay.
Okay, so I want you to try both of them, but do you want to know the secret ingredient in one of the cookies or no? Or do you just want to try them both first? See, I told you guys predicted he wouldn't want to care. So try whichever one and then you can tell us. And it's not a matter of which one's better, worse. It's a matter of they're two different cookies and what does he think about them?
It tastes like a regular old chocolate chip cookie.
Okay. So you want to try this one? Oh.
I can taste oats.
Yep. Because it's oat flour.
I can taste the chocolate chip. It's more cakey versus a cookie being, you know, kind of crunchy almost. Mm-hmm. This is cakey. And it's soft, a lot softer than those are. Tastes different, but it's not bad at all. I would eat it.
Would you believe there's chickpeas in that cookie?
Nope.
You blend them with the coconut sugar and the plant-based milk and the vanilla to make the cream mixture. Like with this, you use butter, sugar, and egg makes the cream mixture. So there you go.
It's a little different, but it's almost kind of tastes like a chocolate cookie versus chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah. So there you go. So you can make a whole food plant-based cookie, and it doesn't have to be dry and icky and what people think of when they think of a healthy cookie, and especially one made without butter and eggs.
It's actually, I mean, it's moist. Like I said, cakey, soft, and it bounces back. It tastes just like a cookie, really, other than a little different texture difference, but
I still want one.
but not bad at all. And very moist. I mean, it just breaks apart. So
there you go. So before, this should come out like, I don't know, 9 or 10 days before Valentine's Day. You got 2 different options of cookies to make, depending on what you're eating in your household. Thank you so much for joining One Dish, Two Ways, and we hope you have, if you like this video, let us know by making a comment, or maybe like it, share it with someone else that you know. And if you would like to subscribe so you know that we come out videos every Wednesday, that would be great. Have a great week.